Imagine stepping into a dimly lit, smoke-filled chess club in Montreal during the late spring of 1894. The atmosphere is thick with anticipation. On one side of the room sits Harry Nelson Pillsbury, one of the most phenomenal tactical geniuses the chess world has ever seen. But today, he is not even looking at the board. He is playing blindfold, navigating a complex web of multiple games simultaneously entirely within the theater of his own mind. Across from him sits a young, fiercely creative American player named Frank James Marshall. Marshall is not here to play a quiet, defensive game. He is here to attack, to disrupt, and to create a masterpiece. What follows is a legendary clash of titans, a game that perfectly captures the romantic era of chess, where material is secondary to imagination, and a single misstep can lead to complete destruction. The game begins with Pillsbury pushing his pawn to e4, claiming space in the center and opening lines for his queen and light-squared bishop. Marshall answers immediately by mirroring the move, sending his pawn to e5. The classical asymmetric struggle for the center is established. But Pillsbury wants a fight. On the very next move, he pushes his pawn to f4, offering up a sacrifice in the opening. This is the King's Gambit, a declaration of war designed to tear open the center and launch an immediate assault on the Black King. Marshall, true to his counterpunching nature, refuses to play passively. He does not take the bait. Instead, he strikes back directly in the center with pawn to d5. This is the Falkbeer Counter-Gambit. By sacrificing his own pawn, Marshall intends to strip white of his central dominance and turn the tactical tables right from the start. Pillsbury accepts the challenge, playing pawn takes d5. Marshall responds by bringing his queen out early, capturing the pawn on d5. This is a provocative choice, as developing the queen early often makes her a target. Pillsbury seizes the opportunity to develop with a tempo, jumping his knight to c3, directly harassing the black queen. Marshall recognizes the danger and retreats his queen safely back to d8. The early skirmish is over, but the board is heavily imbalanced. Pillsbury now plays pawn takes e5, snatching up the central pawn and opening up more lines for his pieces. Marshall immediately capitalizes on his development advantage by swinging his dark-squared bishop out to c5. This is a highly aggressive placement, as the bishop now slices down the long diagonal, staring directly at the vulnerable f2 square near white's king, making it very difficult for Pillsbury to castle easily. Pillsbury develops his kingside, bringing his knight to f3, adding a defender to the center and preparing his own development. Marshall keeps up the pressure, moving his light-squared bishop to g4, pinning the white knight against the queen. This pin is uncomfortable for white, so Pillsbury steps his bishop to e2, breaking the pin and preparing to secure his king. Marshall brings more firepower into the center, developing his knight to c6, eyeing the central squares. Pillsbury, recognizing the power of Marshall's dark-squared bishop, leaps his knight forward to e4, threatening to eliminate that dangerous piece. But Marshall simply slides his bishop back to b6. Even from this retreated position, the bishop maintains its deadly glare down the diagonal toward the white king's home. Pillsbury tries to solidify his position, playing pawn to c3, a cautious move meant to control the d4 square and pave the way for a future central pawn push. Marshall sees an opportunity to centralize his forces and brings his queen back out to d5, putting immediate pressure on the advanced white knight on e4. Pillsbury must protect the knight, so he coordinates his pieces by playing queen to c2, providing the necessary defense. Marshall wastes no time and develops his light-squared bishop to f5, creating a devastating pin. The knight on e4 is now pinned against the white queen on c2, and the tension in the center of the board is palpable. Even while playing blindfold, Pillsbury finds a brilliant, explosive tactical resource. He clears the tension by launching his knight forward to f6 with a check. This is a spectacular forcing move that demands an immediate response. Marshall is forced to react, capturing the intrusive piece with knight takes f6. Pillsbury follows up instantly, using his queen to capture the loose bishop on f5 with queen takes f5. White has temporarily won a piece and disrupted Black's coordination, but Marshall's tactical vision is just as sharp. He drives the white queen back by jumping his knight to e7, attacking the queen with a tempo. Pillsbury swings his queen aggressively to g5, looking to create threats of his own on the king side. Now, Marshall unleashes a powerful concept. He leaps his remaining knight into the heart of the white territory, settling it on e4. This knight is a monster, commanding key squares and threatening a devastating fork on the f2 square. Pillsbury, perhaps underestimating the speed of Black's attack, decides to go pawn hunting, capturing the unprotected pawn on g7 with queen. This looks terrifying as it attacks the black rook, but Marshall has calculated a brilliant counteroffensive. Instead of defending, he delivers a stunning blow. Bishop to f2 check. The bishop sacrifices itself to shatter White's king safety. Pillsbury is forced to move his king to f1, losing his ability to castle forever and leaving his king stranded in the center of a raging storm. Marshall immediately brings his rook into the game with maximum force, playing rook to g8, attacking the white queen and taking control of the open g-file. Pillsbury's queen is forced to flee, grabbing yet another pawn with queen takes h7. White is now significantly ahead in material, but his king is completely exposed and his pieces are disconnected. Marshall calmly slides his bishop back to b6, keeping it safe while maintaining its long-range pressure. Pillsbury finally tries to shut down that dangerous diagonal by pushing his pawn to d4, creating a barrier in the center. Marshall, recognizing that the time for the final assault has come, castles his king safely queenside. This move is a masterstroke. It secures the black king while instantly mobilizing the queen's rook for the attack. Pillsbury tries to maneuver his queen back into the defense, playing queen to h6, but Marshall is relentless, using his kingside rook to hound the queen once more with rook to h8. The white queen retreats to f4, finding a momentary haven. Marshall now doubles down on his attacking files, swinging his other rook to g8. Both of Black's rooks are now perfectly aligned on the open g-file, pointing directly at the white king's position. Pillsbury tries to fortify his kingside by playing rook to g1, attempting to hold the line against the oncoming onslaught. Marshall keeps turning the screw, jumping his knight to g6, once again attacking the white queen and forcing her to move. Pillsbury moves his queen to e3, trying desperately to keep his position from collapsing. Marshall sees the X-ray pressure and moves his rook from d8 to e8, lining it up directly with the white queen. The tactical web is tightening around Pillsbury's king. White shifts the queen to d3, hoping to find safety away from the file, but Marshall has another wave of attackers ready. He swings his knight to h4, bringing another piece into the immediate vicinity of the white king. Pillsbury realizes he must eliminate this active attacker and plays knight takes h4. Marshall recaptures with rook takes h4, keeping his rook actively placed and ready to deliver the final blows. Pillsbury tries to create a defensive shell, playing pawn to h3 to prevent any immediate back-rank disasters. But Marshall strikes at the very foundation of White's center, playing pawn to c5, aiming to tear open the remaining lines. Pillsbury desperately looks for a counterattack, delivering a check with bishop to g4. Marshall calmly blocks the check by advancing his pawn to f5. Pillsbury takes the pawn en passant, playing pawn takes f5 discovered check, opening up lines of attack, but this plays right into Marshall's hands. Instead of moving his king, Marshall unleashes a breathtaking exchange sacrifice, capturing the white bishop with rook takes g4. This is the defining moment of the game. Pillsbury captures back with pawn takes g4, but the white king's defenses have been completely demolished. Marshall's knight now leaps into the fray with devastating effect, playing knight to g3, check. The white king is trapped. Pillsbury captured the knight with his queen to g3. Marshall coordinates his final pieces beautifully, bringing his queen to c4 with a crushing check. The white king has nowhere to hide. He steps to f2, trying to escape the net, but it is already too late. Marshall delivers the poetic final blow, queen to e2 checkmate. The black queen, supported by her rook, penetrates deep into the white camp to deliver a flawless execution. What a spectacular game of chess. Frank James Marshall showed absolute fearlessness, meeting Harry Nelson Pillsbury's blindfold wizardry with an uncompromising, aggressive counter-gambit. By prioritizing rapid peace development and king safety over material greed, Marshall constructed an unstoppable attacking storm that completely overwhelmed one of the greatest tactical minds of the era. Thank you so much for watching this incredible game with me. If you enjoyed this journey, want to see more amazing chess stories like this, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us a lot. Until next time, keep playing and keep your king safe.